Dave didn't know when he had taken off, what had happened, or how he got back. He woke up 2 days later at the Naval Regional Hospital in Okinawa. To this day, he remembers nothing of the flight, but he's also every night since this flight had nightmares, and his words were, "Something got to me up there in the air." He still drinks. I don't know if that's good or bad, but he didn't talk about it. He didn't tell the flight surgeon. In the military, if you go to the flight surgeon and they see anything at all that seems unusual or unstable, they ground you. And pilots will give up their families, body parts, and all their money to keep flying. If you've ever met them, especially test pilots and people that work black programs, that's what they live for. So he didn't talk to the flight surgeon. He self-medicated. And that's why there's so much alcoholism amongst cops and military, is because they don't want to help people. They just want them to follow the rules. Anyway, Dave, I actually looked up Dave. Gerald convinced him. What you have to understand is these people I talked to wouldn't talk to me over the phone. And of course, not a lot of people were emailing back when we started this in the early 90s. I actually had to talk around subjects over the phone and say, well, I'm going to be in your area, and Gerald vouches for me, or Doc vouches for me, or you know Sal, and they'd say, yes, I had a long conversation with Gerald or Sal or Doc, and I'll talk to you if you're out here. And usually it was in a bar or on a long walk where there was nobody within 20 feet. And that's why these people won't talk to reporters, because they know eventually somebody's going to find out who they are. But I spent 25 years establishing my credibility. I've had 2-star generals give me a direct order when I was just a sergeant that if I didn't tell them what, for example, Westinghouse engineer disclosed information to me about how they were messing up a program, that I'd be court-martialed, and I refused to do it. So these people knew if I gave them my word, no one would ever know who they really were. And that's why there's a unique take on this. You're getting a story that's built from people who have lived this technology and under this cloak of secrecy. I lived it for 25 years. And then I realized we were the government. Next slide. One day while at Nellis, we were informed there was an F-15 that had crashed out on the Nellis Range, which is near Area 51. This was in 1977. A lieutenant colonel who was a commander and a pilot, and Doc Walters, the hospital commander at Nellis, actually flew into the side of a mountain while doing a routine functional check flight. I've written about this story in detail in Alien Rapture. A sergeant who worked for me recovered the heads-up F-15 heads-up display film canister because he was assigned to the accident investigation team. He told me a guy in a dark jumpsuit from Washington, D.C. had immediately pounced on him and the camera when they recovered it out in the desert, which was very unusual because everything else that was picked up was standard procedures, was logged, marked, photographed, and taken back to an assigned hangar for analysis. At the time, I'm not sure, I'm trying to remember, I think it was Fairchild, was prototyping CCD cameras, which is, of course, everybody has them now, but for the F-15. This F-15 had a prototype video camera on it. It also had a flight data recorder. This guy in the jumpsuit, when they were recovered, were turned over to him without question. So I don't know who he worked for, but I don't think he worked for the Air Force. A couple of weeks after the crash, Gerald, and in fact it's funny because the first time I ever met Gerald was at the Silver Dollar Saloon, and he didn't drink, but people with security clearances under a lot of pressure tend to drink or have other problems, and that's why he watched them. But Gerald had told me that Lieutenant Colonel, who was the pilot of the F-15 that had crashed, along with Doc Walters, radioed the Nellis Tower, and it said, and his words were, and I write everything down so I can quote other people instead of being glib. He said, this extremely large thing is over my aircraft. Right on top of him, he screamed to the tower. And he informed them that he was experiencing total loss of flight systems. His communications went immediately dead. Less than 3 seconds after the communications ended, they flew into the side of a mountain. Check it out. It's in the newspapers. Back then, there was lawsuits, too. Gerald, who was probably the most connected person, I've known a lot of connected people. Before I got out of the defense industry, I could call up half of the CEOs or most of the VPs in any major defense contractor. But Gerald, I was in awe of him. He was so connected. Said that the video from the prototype CCD video camera showed that some type of oval vehicle of tremendous size was so close to the F-15 that it blocked out almost all light. He said that it was so close that the camera couldn't focus, and back then they were just experimenting with CCD cameras that had automatic aperture and focus and everything, but this had it, and it couldn't focus. So, we're talking about 10 feet. You can imagine that at doing 500 miles an hour. A little too close for comfort, obviously. Anyway, unfortunately, when the F-15 crashed into this mountainside, they tried to eject right before impact. The UFO was still on top of them, and their bodies were torn to shreds. Officially, as always is the case, pilot error. Pilot error. Of course, these guys were experts, but it didn't matter. Pilot error caused a perfectly functioning aircraft in clear airspace with maximum visibility to crash. These are just some of the type of stories that I was given and have used in Alien Rapture. Next slide, please. Nevada calls itself the Silver State, the Battleborn State, and the Sagebrush State. A more appropriate motto would be the Conspiracy State. I wonder if this room is bugged by the casino. Of 111,000 square miles of land in Nevada, over 80% is controlled by the federal government, the highest percentage of any state in the union. If it were not for the gaming industry, the federal government would be the largest employer, with 18,000 military and another 20,000 government contractors working at places like the Nevada Test Site, the Nellis Range, the Fallon Naval Air Station, and the Tonopah Range, and the aerospace industry. And by the way, you'll probably hear this eventually where somebody that comes forward, but the Nellis Range is not the most classified facility. Area 51 or Groom Air Base is not the most classified facility in Nevada, and neither is the stuff around Papoose. EG&G provides classified research, development, and services for the military and government. EG&G supplied the technical and scientific support for nuclear testing and energy research and development programs. EG&G provided large diameter drilling and mining and excavation equipment for underground and mountainside facilities. They built these hidden bunkers, mountainside hangars, and vast underground facilities at Groom, Papoose, Mercury, and other places in Nevada. These facilities and observation posts are extremely well camouflaged. In fact, I keep wanting to tell you these little anecdotes, but I'm afraid I'm going to run out of time if I do. But we'll take some questions here. In 1972, EG&G was granted an indefinite contract called Project Red Light to support the DOE and military. It gave them responsibility to assist in recovery of nuclear materials in cases of mishaps and to provide aerial and ground security. Gerald said that they were also responsible to the DOE and NSA and the MJ-12 committee, whether or not you believe in that, for reacting to sightings of UFOs and crashed vehicles and recovery of alien artifacts, as they're called. Okay, so now you say, what's going on today? The Hillary platform, the Avro saucer, that's the Hillary platform, the Avro saucer, and the Northrop wings were aerospace vehicles where advanced technology, which emulated UFO characteristics, were tested. See the date that was flown? 1948? And everybody thinks the B-2 stealth bomber is just, you know, kind of funny. It looks a lot like it. Dr. Paul Hill, a lot of you have probably read his book. He's now deceased. There's going to be a lot of that going around. Was a UFO investigator for NASA for over 30 years. Everything he wrote in his notes was classified top secret, and he couldn't publish it. But his book got out because his daughter published this manuscript. If you want some more technical information, I suggest you read his book too. Lockheed's Advanced Development Projects Division, known as the Skunk Works, developed the A-12 for the CIA. What's really funny is 30 years after they built the SR-71, it broke the land speed record from L.A. to New York in 1 hour and 4 minutes. And it still didn't fly its max classified speed or altitude. Area 51, the Groom Air Base facilities, has a 6-mile-long runway, the longest in the U.S. The Department of Defense and the CIA used it for the Air Force's most exotic vehicles. You ask why a 6-mile-long runway? Well, up until the SR-75, the vehicles that came after that, you need a runway with high takeoff speeds because they also have very high landing speeds. They have 75-degree or more radical swept-back wings, but the newer vehicles don't need long runways. So they've moved out of Groom. My sources estimate that up to 35% of SDI funding was siphoned off to provide primary expenditures for the Air Force's most secret black program ever, which started in 1982. For those that haven't already figured it out, the Aurora program is not a vehicle. The Aurora program is a code name for the ongoing project to research and develop advanced aerospace vehicles. And there have been a number of them, and we'll get to that. For the last few years, high-tech buffs have speculated at least one new and exotic aerospace vehicle existed, the SR-75, the first operational Aurora program vehicle, went operational after 2 years of flight testing in 1989. The top-secret SR-75 is a hypersonic strategic reconnaissance spy plane called the Penetrator. It is a mothership, which I'm getting into here. Hypersonic speeds, by the way, start at Mach 5. The SR-75 replaced the SR-71. Now, this thing's been flying operational for 9 years. This is old technology. The new SR-75, I call it new because it's new to a lot of people, is capable of positioning anywhere in the world in less than 3 hours. It carries multispectral sensors such as optical, radar, infrared, and laser. The SR-75 far exceeded the classified military speed and altitude records of the old SR-71. The SR-75 has attained altitudes of over 120,000 feet and speeds exceeding Mach 5 or 5 times the speed of sound. That's over 3,300 miles per hour. From takeoff to landing, the 75 can make a round trip from central Nevada at the time to northeast Russia and back in under 3 hours. I suggest if you're hurried, don't take the Concorde. You can everybody read that in the back? It's 162 feet long and 98 feet wide. The belly stands 10 feet off the ground. I know, Gerald was 6'5", and with his